Hey everyone, welcome back. We're diving into something that's got diversity of thought.
Hmm.
And I know, you're probably thinking, diversity, haven't we heard enough about that?
Right.
But this isn't about checking boxes.
Not at all.
This deep dive is about something way more fundamental. It's
Mhm.
about how different ways of thinking, diversity of thought, that's the real secret sauce that makes all the other kinds of diversity actually work.
It really is like almost like you're getting a new pair of glasses, right? You put these glasses on, and suddenly you see why it matters, why thought diversity isn't just some nice to have.
So paint me a picture here.
Yeah.
We talk about diversity in terms of race, gender, background, but where does this thought diversity thing fit in? How is it different?
Well, imagine you've got this team, right? Everyone's from different walks of life, different experiences, which is amazing.
Perfect scenario, right?
Right. On the surface, it's like diversity goals
Yeah,
achieved,
right.
but then what if everyone on that team, despite all that diversity, what if they all approach problems the exact same way?
Hmm. I see where you're going with this.
Same mental toolbox, same solutions, no matter what the problem is.
You're going to hit a wall pretty fast.
Exactly. And that's where thought diversity comes in.
Okay, so it's not just about what we think, it's about how we think.
You got it. It's recognizing that people process information differently, they come up with different kinds of solutions, and their background, it influences their viewpoint of the problem.
Right.
But it's the thought diversity that shapes the solutions they come up with.
So instead of just one instrument, it's like having a whole orchestra.
Yes.
You get a much richer, more interesting sound that way.
It's not just about sounding good. Thought diversity is tied to real-world outcomes.
Like what? Give me some examples.
You name it. Innovation, solving problems effectively, even, get this, global peace building.
Whoa, hold on. Peace building. That's a pretty big leap from like a better brainstorming session.
I know, right? But that's what's so fascinating about this.
Okay, so how does that work? How does different thinking lead to world peace?
Well, think about it. A lot of conflict comes from just not understanding each other. We assume the worst.
Yeah, they're wrong, we're right, that kind of thing.
Right. Exactly. But what if those disagreements aren't really about values, but about literally seeing the world through different lenses?
Different lenses.
Yeah, like literally different ways of seeing the same situation.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more about these lenses.
So the source digs into this framework, Steiner's 12 worldviews. It's like 12 different pairs of glasses.
Yeah.
And each pair, it colors how you see the world. It's not about one being right or wrong. It's just recognizing that these different perspectives exist.
So instead of just arguing about who's right or wrong, we need to understand how people even get to those conclusions in the first place.
Exactly. It's like before we even argue about the answer, we need to understand what question each person is even asking.
I like that. So give me an example. How different could these worldviews be?
Okay, imagine someone who sees the world through, let's say, materialism. They care about what's real, what's tangible, the here and now.
Makes sense.
Right. Then you have someone looking at the same situation, but they're coming from a spiritism perspective.
So they're thinking about totally different things.
Totally. They're focused on the spiritual dimension, the deeper meaning behind things.
Whoa, that's a huge difference.
Right. And it's easy to see how those two perspectives could clash, even when they both want the same outcome.
Yeah, I can see how that would create some interesting conversations, to say the least.
And that's just two of the 12. There's a whole spectrum of worldviews in between.
Okay, I'm hooked. Give me another one.
All right, how about this? Idealism versus realism?
Oh, I know those types.
Right. The idealists, they're all about the big picture, the dream.
Big goals, shooting for the stars.
While the realist, they're grounded, practical, focused on what's achievable right now.
Keep your feet on the ground. That's their motto.
Exactly. And again, neither one is better, they're just different.
Right. Different strengths, different approaches.
And then there's monadism, which emphasizes individual uniqueness.
Okay, but how does that one fit in with diversity? It sounds like the opposite.
That's the thing, right? Monadism challenges this assumption that people who look alike or come from similar backgrounds, that they all think alike.
Oh. So even within a group that seems uniform on the surface, there's still a ton of thought diversity going on underneath.
It's like, yeah, you see a forest, and from afar, all the trees look the same.
Right, just a sea of green.
But then you get up close, and you realize how different each tree actually is, different shapes, different sizes.
Different types of trees altogether.
It's the same with people, even within a group. There's this amazing diversity of thought just waiting to be uncovered.
I like it. So it sounds like we've got this whole new way of seeing diversity, like we've unlocked a secret level or something.
There really is. And the implications of this are huge, not just for individuals, but for society as a whole.
I gotta ask, how does this actually play out in the real world?
Yeah.
Like, it's one thing to talk about different perspectives,
Yeah.
but how does understanding those differences actually help us tackle these huge global challenges?
Thought diversity helps us see the bigger picture, the interconnectedness of it all.
So it's not about saying one worldview is the right one. It's about bringing all of them to the table.
All of them. Because that's how you get to truly innovative, effective solutions. And this all ties into what we were talking about earlier about peace building.
Okay, yeah, bring it back to that.
So much conflict comes from these deep-seated misunderstandings, right? Clashes of ideology.
We talk about that.
And it's easy to get stuck in this my way or the highway mentality.
Been there.
But thought diversity, it allows for the possibility that, hey, maybe there's more than one right way to see the world.
Okay.
It's not about agreeing with everything.
Right? You don't have to agree to understand.
Yeah, exactly. It's about creating space for those different perspectives.
We can actually start to understand each other.
And build bridges instead of walls.
That's a world I can get behind.
Yeah, me too.
So we've talked about the what and the why of thought diversity.
Definitely.
But the big question remains,
Yeah.
how do we actually make this happen? How do we cultivate more thought diversity in our own lives?
Okay, now we're getting to the practical stuff. Because it's great to talk about these big ideas, but how do we actually put them into practice? It really starts with small steps, just little shifts in how you think about things.
Okay, I like the sound of small steps.
So tell me, how often do you find yourself in those situations where you just can't understand where the other person is coming from?
Oh, all the time. It feels like that's the default setting for social media these days.
Right. Everyone's just talking past each other.
Exactly. It's exhausting.
And that right there, that's your cue to put on your thought diversity glasses. Instead of assuming the other person is wrong or uninformed or just plain difficult, what if, just for a second, you considered, maybe they're looking at this through a different lens than I am?
So it's like, instead of getting ready to argue, I try to figure out where they're coming from.
Exactly. Curiosity over combat, right. You might even find yourself saying something like, hey, I hear what you're saying, but help me understand what's leading you to see it that way.
That's a much different approach than I usually take.
Right. Just genuinely trying to understand another person's worldview.
Even if you totally disagree with them.
Even then, it can be a powerful step towards, building bridges instead of walls.
I love that. It reminds me of that quote, you don't have to walk in someone else's shoes to understand them, but it helps to try them on for size.
Perfect analogy. And, what's so cool about thought diversity is that it doesn't just impact these big global problems.
Oh, yeah. It goes smaller than that.
It can transform your relationships, your workplace, even your own personal growth.
Okay, now you've really got my attention.
Yeah.
Because those are things I can actually control.
Exactly. So imagine you're trying to get your point across to your boss, but they're coming from a totally different worldview than you.
Which happens all the time.
Right. But if you understand their worldview, you can tailor your message in a way that resonates with them.
So if my boss is all about the bottom line, I should focus on the practical benefits of my idea, not just the big picture vision.
Exactly. You're speaking their language.
It's like I suddenly have this superpower to understand people better.
It really is. And that understanding, it can make you a better communicator, a better teammate, a better friend.
So thought diversity isn't just about solving world peace. It's about bringing more peace to our everyday lives.
Absolutely. It's about recognizing that those differences, those different worldviews,
They're not something to be afraid of.
exactly. They're what make life interesting. They're what lead to those aha moments, those breakthroughs.
It's like upgrading from a black and white TV to a full-color Ultra HD experience. Suddenly the world is just more vibrant.
I love that analogy.
Well, that's all the time we have for today, but this conversation has definitely given me a lot to think about.
Me too. And I hope it's inspired all of you listening to put on those thought diversity glasses.
And see the world in a whole new light.
Exactly.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone. Until next time.